Hello everybody, it's me again, and this is the last video that we're gonna do regarding the JSON and web services. Okay, let me show you what we're going to do here. In the last video, what we've done, if we run this last video, the last project we've done, hopefully you're here, you're able to get the data, and then here there was an image, and this image was coming from the data that we received back from the web service. And it used to be just the name icon 1, icon 2, icon 3, but right now it's changed. Instead of that, now we have actually a link to an image that comes from the server itself. So I have these images on the server and just a link to these images. And this is typically what you do. You send a link and then you download these images asynchronously. So what we're going to do, if you go to the, let me show you what we're going to do, and this is what's going to happen. If you run this, notice we got the images. Now these images, they come from the actual server instead of hard coding into the application. So by the end of this lecture, this video, this is what you should be able to do. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to do is that you get started with the previous project that you were working with. So if you were open the last project you were working with, and it's called finished, okay? And let's do a few modifications. First, the image data comes to us from the server, and it comes as data. So we're gonna add a new attribute to the Swift class, to the store class, and add the following: store image, the type of that image, and its data, and it's blank data. All right, so you need to add that attribute. And what we're doing here is that we're actually storing the image data in the class itself, just like we did with the core data. All right, so that's the first part. And let's go to the view controller. Now the view controller, we've done already the part where we call a web service. If you remember, we have a function called, if you look in here, there's a function called load records, right? And this would call the data, calls the web service or an HTTP request. We get the result. The difference between this one and the one we're going to do next is instead of we getting JSON data, we're actually getting a binary data. So instead of this, we want to do actually convert the data we receive into an image, just like we did with the core data. So the first step we want to do is that we copy this because we've already done it. So we'll just copy this code, modify it, and make it work for the image data. So let's go ahead and copy from the description to the end of that function. Command copy, and let's add it to the end. And let's call that load. And the description need to change, of course, so you can do that. Okay, instead of load records, you're going to do load images or image. All right, now this is a little bit different. This one actually receives parameter, and the parameter receives two things, and I'll explain to you what they are. First, if you look at the method or the function that loads the table, here's the function that loads the table. Here we get the record from the array using the index path. So the index path tells me what cell I'm working with, all right? Okay, the next thing I need to do is that I need to update that record, which is S. I need to, here it's called S, right? I need to update the record image or the image for that record, that store. So in order to do this, I need to pass the store and the index path to the new method that we've just created, the function. Okay, so here we need to say, I'm going to pass store, and the type is store. And then I'm going to pass the index path of that cell, okay? Index path, okay? Those are required in order to update the cell and then update the data in that store. Okay, that's good. So we're done with the first step. Now, the second step that we need to do is that, well, the URL is not hard-coded anymore. The URL actually comes from the store. Remember, there is an attribute here in that store. It's called image, it's called image name. So I need to use that as my URL. This is what comes into the, if you look in here, this is what comes to me, okay? The image store icon. This is the link that I want to use for the image. So let's go back to the class. Instead of all of this, now I use the data that is being passed to me, which is store image name. Okay. So I got my URL. All right. So this should be the same. No problem. This should be, so we're leveraging the same stuff that we've learned before. You could do this differently. There's other way to do this, but since we've done this earlier, so let's just leverage the same stuff that we've learned before into making it work. So now I got my URL, got my request, got my data task, and got my completion handler. Now here's where we need to make some changes. Okay, we don't have any more JSON data, so I'm going to delete all of this. And then we still have getting, instead of this, you say getting image, for example. All right, store image. And I don't need to print the data anymore. We know that works because we tried it before. Okay, so what we need to do here, what do we need to do here? First, if I was successful, I got the data, the first thing I need to do, I say store dot image store image equal to the data that we received, because it is stored data at the end. It is NS data. So that's one. The second thing I need to do, I need to construct an image to update the cell. So I say let image equal to UI image, and there is data, NS data, and the data that I received. So that would construct the image. All right. The last thing I need to do is that I need to update that cell. Well, to update that cell, I need to, remember this is happening in the background, so we need to put it in the queue, in the main queue. So now I have a code that already done. I'll just copy it and explain it to you. Okay. And then I'll paste it in here. What are we doing here? This, we're dispatching asynchronous request on the main queue. Now, in the previously, we did something a little bit different. We got the main queue, and from the main queue, we added an operation, right? It's the same thing. You're doing the same thing. This is another way of doing it, okay? So what am I doing? First, I need to get the cell that I need to update. So I say, give me the cell. Or what cell? The cell that has the index path that it was sent to me. Remember, we said we want to update the image for that cell. All right. So give me the cell with that index path. Now that cell is of a type store table view cell. And then after this, I just simply update the image of that store. All right. And this is it. That's all we have to do. Now we need to do one more thing here when we update the image for the table view. Here is where we load the data for the table view, right here, right? Now this is not valid anymore. The way it works, usually, what happens is that you have a dummy image, like a white blank image. You could say in that image saying loading. And because these images are downloading asynchronously, once you get the image, then you replace that image, that white blank image, with the image that you received. So first, I'm going to put one on some of those images that we already have here. So I'm going to say image name, and then I'm going to say icon one, for example, .jpg, right? So just like a placeholder, all right? So this will give me the image. The second part is that now I need to you need to check. Do I have an image in the class? If I have an image, I don't need to download it. If I don't have an image, I need to download it. So the way you do it, you say if let image equal to UI image data where does the data come from? It comes from S, which is the store image, right? If it is successful, then I will update the image, this image right here. So I can say command copy, and then I will replace the placeholder one with this one, okay, which is image. Else, that means if I don't have data, I don't have an image, basically, I need to call the method, the function that we just did, which is self.load images, and then I pass to it as the store, right? And the index path that is already in this function. This is the index path that we have. All right, that's it. So this is how you usually do the process. You replace the image that you have in the table view with like a dummy image. You check if you have an image data, convert it to an image, and then assign it to the cell. Otherwise, you invoke the mechanism to download the data from a server. And in this case, we have a function, we called it load images. It received the store, and then it received the index path, and then it does the same thing we've done before, and gets the data and convert the data into an image and update the cell. All right. Now, the nice thing about this, the stored data is actually the stored data. It could be like in a core data. Once you load it, it stays in the core data, just like we've done before. Let's test it, see how it works. Hopefully things will work out okay. It is taking a little bit of time. Let's make sure that we're getting the data. We got some data and we got the images. Okay, let me stop it again and I'll show you. You see that? Now, one more, I think we need to do one more thing. When I click on this, I'm getting a blank image. Why am I getting a blank image? I'll tell you why. So if we go to the store detail here, where is the detail? Store table view, cell detail, okay, this one here. Well, right now that image is coming from where? It's coming from an image name, right? Well, we don't have image name anymore. We have actually data. So we'll say data dot, and then we need to say store instead of store name, we'll say store image, okay? Because we downloaded the data and stored it in the class. So now if we run it, it should work. Here it is. You're almost there. This is very, very, very useful, and actually if you understand and comprehend this, you're doing well. All right. So that's the end of the last video regarding calling web services and getting some data and getting images and displaying on the screen. I'll see you in the next topic.